So today's video should be a lot of fun. I'm actually about to go get some lunch. I'm going to tell a couple of stories from my life when I lived in Korea. But there's a really cool backstory as to why I'm doing this video. Let me tell you. A little while ago I set up Patreon. It allows people to support me online, and one of the tiers on there allows people to choose the theme and location for my next video. So Kim Mino, a guy from Korea, he's asked me to come to a Korean barbecue by myself, which is a challenge in itself, and sit there and talk about some of the experiences that I had from my life living in Korea. So right now I'm in Koreatown. Let's go find a barbecue place and have some lunch. So I've been here a couple of times. There's some great restaurants here. Been to a couple of good barbecue places too. So the challenge is the two places that I just checked out, they both want 2 people or more for you to be able to go in and do the buffet. I wanted to do a buffet because I want to eat like a whole bunch of different things and sort of talk about the food as well. So it's weird, like the places, I chose places that were quiet because then I need some space to be able to like sit and talk and everything like that, and I don't want to be in like a really busy place. So I would have thought the places that were quiet, they'd want some business better than no business, but they both turned me away. Anyway, I will find somewhere. Alright, so I managed to find a place that would let me come by myself. It's surprising. I went to like 4 different places and they all said like, no, you can't come alone. You need to come with more than one person. I even offered to pay more, but they said no. And then the last place was like, yeah, you can, but you can't film. So all good. I've found a place now. It's a pork buffet place and I'm excited to try it. So one of my favorite things about coming to Korean barbecue is just like all the little side, it's all Korean food actually, it's all these little side dishes that you get with it. The food is all amazing. So this is a real challenge in Korea, is to come to Korean barbecue by yourself. It's a very uncommon thing, and if you go to a Korean barbecue, especially in Korea, it's mostly like groups of friends or like people on dates and stuff like that. So to come alone, it's super intimidating, and here it's almost impossible. I couldn't find a restaurant. I had to buy like 2 people's worth of food, but that's alright, I'll eat most of it anyway. So this is exciting. So today I'm going to talk about some of my experiences in Korea, like my life when I lived in Korea, why I ended up there and everything like that. So I used to have a Korean girlfriend back in Australia many years ago, and I started to learn about Korean culture, and I became interested. I love the food, I became interested in the culture, and it's just something, it's a place I wanted to visit. So I took a holiday and I went over there. I actually went by myself and I just had the best time when I was there. I fell in love with the place. So I actually went back a few more times, like just on holidays, and it became my favorite place to travel to. Kimchi. So the people in Korea are so nice. You know, I made friends so easily there. When I moved there to live, I made friends in like my first day. So my first night I went out by myself, met a whole bunch of people. I actually knew a couple of people that lived there, but I went out by myself on the first night and I made friends with a guy, and he ended up being like one of my best friends, and he was Korean. It was really easy for me to like properly absorb myself in the culture there. You know, I made friends with Korean people so easily. They're so warm and friendly to me, you know, guys and girls. I'd go out and people would just come talk to me and they wanted to know who I was and wanted to be friends with me. It's just, it was really cool. The people are just so nice there. It's honestly my favorite part about the place, and the food. So this pork neck that I've got cooking here, I've also got some pork belly. Pork's great here. I say here, I'm in Thailand. Pork's great in Korea, and it's really good for barbecuing. There's like great sauce and like kimchi and like lettuce combinations that you can do that taste really, really good too. over to Korea, I had enough money to last me 1 year without working, and I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. I was hoping to be successful on YouTube, which I wasn't. I didn't know enough about it. You know, there's so much you need to know to be able to succeed on YouTube, and I just didn't know those things. But I did a variety of little like part-time jobs. I worked at a restaurant, I did some modeling type work, I did some acting type work. And there's actually a really cool story about the acting work. It's something I really enjoyed there. But it's time for me to eat some of this. So this here is pork neck. And this looks amazing. First got over, I met another expat guy, and he was like an actor slash model, and he was like, oh, if you want, I know my agency needs more people, you know, there's a lot of demand for foreign actors and models there. And I hadn't done any acting work before. I was like, sure, I'll give it a try. So I started off doing like background stuff, like TV extra work, and I was surprised to find out there's quite a lot of work available, and the pay is really good for when you do it. I've done all sorts of things. So I featured in movies, TV shows, dramas. I did a voiceover for a movie. Like, they filmed it with the guy who's supposed to be American, but I think he was German and his accent was too heavy. So they asked me to speak over it. And I was like, I'm not American. They're like, can you do an American accent? I was like, sure. And they made me do an audition, and they liked my American accent enough that they cast me for the role. So I was basically in the studio, and I was just like voicing over, saying the things that he was saying throughout the movie. And because we see these movies like during the recording phases before they come out, there's all this privacy stuff about it. I don't know the name of the movie. And you need to really like sort of pursue that if you want to find out what the movie's called. You can't find out until it's about to be released, because you know the storyline and you can't, you know, ruin it for other people. So it's really funny. I was actually taking a domestic flight within Korea, and as I was on the plane, that movie came on, and I didn't know that was the movie that I voiced over for. I'm like sitting there watching this movie. I was like, God, I think I've seen this before. And then all of a sudden, like I heard my voice, and I was like, holy shit, that's me. And it was this really weird experience to be like sitting on a plane watching a movie and like listening to my own voice. It was really weird, and the movie was terrible, by the way. So Korea has these cool challenges for things to do alone. Like one of them is like, you know, go to karaoke by yourself, go out to a bar by yourself, you know, eat in a restaurant by yourself. And the one at the top of the list is to have, well, I'm not sure if this is the top of the list or karaoke is the top of the list, for things you have to do alone as a challenge. So eating barbecue alone is probably quite weird. I'm fine, like look at all this food, I'm in heaven here. This is a cool thing you do. You get some lettuce, you get your meat, a bit of salt and oil, you wrap it. You might actually put a little bit of kimchi with it. Wrap it up into a little ball and eat like this. So you might think there wouldn't be a whole lot of demand for like a white male in a movie in Korea, but there's actually a ton of work going around. They make a lot of movies, and scenes that they make will be, you know, set in America or something like that. And instead of actually going to America, they would film it in Korea, and they would fill it with me and a whole bunch of other, you know, Western people. So there was actually a ton of work on. I would get work at least once a week, often twice a week, and they were really fun to do, and they would pay really well as well. So a lot of what we do, you know, would be scenes in an airport or something like that. Even, you know, if they're going to an airport and it's supposed to be like one scene in America, like I've been a person handing out tickets at the airport, been a pilot, but I didn't actually get much screen time for that. The coolest one I did, I actually ended up doing like a whole bunch of military jobs, where I was like dressed up as a military person in the army. And there was a really cool one that I got, and I actually got quite a bit of screen time. So like a lot of it is just extra work and you're a background person, but there was one that we got quite good screen time. It was actually a really good scene with me in it, but it ended up getting cut. Well, maybe it wasn't a good scene. It was good for me because I was like the main person on camera, but it didn't actually make it to the movie. So that whole section of the movie didn't make it in, but it's really cool to see. And I've gotten to work with some of like Korea's biggest actors and like super famous people, and they were all like really friendly, and just the experience of being on a set was really fun as well. just cooking up some pork belly now. I love pork belly. This one looks really good. It doesn't. Some of them are like super fatty, which is nice too, but I prefer a little bit less fat. This one looks really good. Let me show you the other one. Yeah, yum. So I had to get food for 2 people. I don't think I'm going to get through all of it, but I'll get through more than one person's worth. Another job that I did that I really liked, I worked in a pizza restaurant for a while, so it was probably one of my favorite experiences in Korea, but also the most scary. So the first day I went for an interview there, and like, I can speak Korean a little bit. I'm far from perfect. I'm conversational is probably where I'm at. I can read and write, which is a bonus, but I couldn't have like an in-depth conversation. I can chit chat and get to know someone and small talk basically. A good example is like I can watch like drama TV shows, but I can't watch the news. I don't understand what's going on there, but just like everyday language is fine. So anyway, I went for a job interview, and it was in English, and it was in the foreigner district in Korea, in Seoul. And I went there, and the interview was in English, which was great. And the guys asked me, can you speak some Korean? So we had a little like Korean conversation, getting to know each other. And he's like, all right, cool, that's enough. Like, you're good enough to be able to work here. So I was going to be cooking and making pizzas. Like he said, it's a super easy job and it's a lot of fun. So my first day I rock up and I'm like super excited, really nervous. It's like, I'm mostly worried about my language ability at this point. And I get there and he's like showing me what to do. All the orders come through on an iPad for the takeaway food, like for delivery food. And then people will come in as well, but it's only a small place. It only sat, I think, about 8 to 10 people. So not many people come in there to sit down. So the owner, he taught me how to make pizzas. The owner, he was a great guy. We ended up becoming great friends. He was a really nice guy. And he taught me how to make pizza, which was a lot of fun. And I was really enjoying the first day. It was going well, and I was like making notes of what I needed to remember and how to cook and everything like that. It was all quite easy and self-explanatory, so I wasn't struggling with any of it. Then after a couple of hours, he said, okay, I think you're good. I think I'll leave now. And I was like, what? You'll leave? It's just me and him in the store at this point. And he's like, yeah, you'll be fine by yourself. I'm like, no, I can't be by myself on my first day. Like, what if something goes wrong? He's like, just call me, it's okay. So his plan was literally to like throw me in the deep end, leave me in the place by myself. And I was like terrified at this point. I'm like, oh my God, someone's gonna come in, they're gonna talk to me, I'm not gonna understand them. Anyway, it ended up being great. Like, I had no issues. I didn't really have any language barrier issues. I got to know all the menu items and how to cook everything. So I didn't have any problems. It was actually like, one of my favorite experiences in Korea, and it was great for my language as well. I got to learn the language. I was thrown into it. I had no choice. I had to speak Korean in there. Wow, that's really good. That's even better than the pork neck. I love pork neck. It's usually like a really nice cut of meat. This is awesome. So a question I get asked a lot is, do I prefer living in Thailand or did I prefer living in Korea? And that's a really loaded question, but to sort of break it down and simplify it a little bit, I really don't know at this point. There's positives and negatives to both. I feel like when I was in Korea, I got way more into the culture, It's much easier to, all my friends there were Korean. I only had sort of 1 or 2 Western friends, and all the rest of my friends were Korean. So I would live like a Korean lifestyle, and I would do Korean things, and I was speaking Korean. So I was way more in the culture, and I felt like I was much more part of it. Whereas in Thailand, I almost feel like there's 2 Thailands. If you're a foreigner, you live in this sort of halfway between Thai culture and Western culture, and it's hard to meet. I meet girls here really easily, but it's hard to meet guys, and like so far, as bars and clubs open, I imagine I will be able to make more friends. Like it's easy to socialize and meet people that way. But for now, I feel like I was way more involved in the Korean culture and then learning about Korea when I was over there. But I do love it here. Thailand is my home now, and I'm happy to be here. I will visit Korea as soon as it opens. Australians still aren't able to travel there, so as soon as Australians can travel there, I will go back to visit. I miss my friends is the main thing, The food you can have anywhere and stuff like that, but it's my friends that I really miss. I made great friends. I lived there 2.5 years, so I miss my friends. I still talk to them all the time, and I never got any kind of like closure. I basically went to Australia for Christmas in 2019. And then I didn't get back to Korea. I went to Philippines at the start of 2020, and then that's when everything started getting weird, and I flew back to Australia to naively wait out this whole situation. I didn't think it would go on for anywhere near as long as it did. So up until a few months ago, I still had a place in Korea, like with all my belongings in it. I only went to Australia with like a small suitcase, so I didn't get to like pack up my place or anything like that. One of my friends in Korea has since like packed it up and sent everything to my parents' place. But I've got all these possessions that I haven't seen for nearly 2 years now. I don't even remember what was in my apartment. But it's sad that, you know, my apartment's gone and everything. I loved where I lived. I lived in a great neighborhood. I was in a good building. You know, I had a great relationship with the building manager and everything. Like, it was like a tiny little, like, small apartment block. I think it was only like 15 apartments in the block, and everyone kind of knew each other, and it was in like a really nice community and everything. So they're the things I miss the most. Well, that's it. I've completely run aground. I've eaten 1.5 persons worth of food. I'm completely stuffed. God, it was good though. Whew, my God. All right, well, jeez, I'm so full. That was so good. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you, Kim Min-ho, for, well, one, for the support on Patreon, but for suggesting the video. I had fun doing this and telling the story. I hope it was interesting for you guys. Let me know. And if you want to support me on Patreon, that'd be amazing. I'll leave you a link below. But it's fun having someone else like decide the theme and the location for the videos. I mean, I just ate, so that was easy for me. I love eating. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap the video up here. Got some fun stuff coming up. I'm actually off to Pattaya in a couple of days, so that should be cool. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, as always, thanks for watching. See you next time. Oh man, I just did something really fucking stupid.